Every night at 2:13 a.m., the swings in the children's section start to move. No wind. No sound. No one in the park except me. For the last 3 months of my night shift duty here in Redwood Community Park, I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was the breeze, maybe old rusted chains, maybe just my imagination. But last night, I finally went close to those swings. And that's when I realized. Someone was sitting in them. Someone I couldn't see. And they knew. I was watching. Redwood Community Park looks harmless during the day, families, joggers, cyclists, kids running around the playground. But after midnight, it feels like a completely different place. Trees stop looking like trees. The walking trail becomes a dark tunnel. And every sound has a direction but no source. I clocked in at 11:45 p.m., same as always. Winter air was sharp, and the whole park felt heavier than usual, like the darkness itself was pressing down on me. Security booth, flashlights, radios, everything felt normal except that quiet, empty feeling I always get before something happens. My routine was simple. Check the perimeter. Scan the restrooms. Walk through the picnic areas. Then pass by the children's playground. That playground. I swear, even when it's empty, it never feels empty. Around 12:40 a.m., I started hearing the chains again, soft metallic creaks drifting through the cold air. Not again, I thought. At first, I ignored it. Last few weeks, the same thing happened. Always around the same time. Always the same slow, rhythmic sound of a swing moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Tonight, though, it sounded different. Heavier. Like someone bigger was sitting on it. I walked toward the playground slowly, my boots crunching through the frost-covered grass. Every step made the air colder. My breath looked like smoke in my flashlight beam. When I reached the playground gate, the sound stopped. Just like that. Silence. I scanned the swings. All three were still. Perfectly still. I exhaled, thinking maybe it was just the wind. And then, right as I turned to leave, one of the swings jerked forward as if someone had kicked off the ground. No wind. No movement around it. Just one swing moving on its own, faster and faster, as if someone invisible had just climbed onto it. I felt the hair on the back of my neck rise. And for the first time, I realized something was waiting for me here. The swing kept moving, harder, faster, like someone was pumping their legs, gaining momentum. My flashlight trembled slightly in my hand, though I tried to pretend it was just the cold. I stepped closer. The chains clinked sharply, cutting through the silence of the empty park. Every swing around it was completely still. I leaned down, letting the beam of my flashlight sweep over the sand beneath the swings. And that's when my stomach dropped. There were footprints in the sand. Small ones. Like a child's. But here's the part that froze me. There were only the ones facing the swing, not walking to it. As if the child had appeared there out of nowhere. I crouched, trying to make sense of the shape. The prints weren't deep enough for an adult. I could clearly see the outline, tiny toes, soft heel marks, no shoes. Bare feet. In this cold? I stood up immediately. The swing slowed slightly, but not from losing momentum. It felt like whoever was sitting on it had sensed me. Like they were watching me back. I pressed the radio button on my shoulder. Dispatch, this is Unit 14. Do we have anyone logged in the park? Any maintenance crew? Anyone at all? A few seconds of static, then a flat reply. Negative, 14. Park's empty. You're the only one on site. I swallowed hard. Suddenly, the swing stopped. Not gradually, it froze mid-movement, perfectly still, like someone grabbed the chains with both hands. My beam moved up the seat, the chains, the cold air around it. Nothing. I stepped back. Then I heard it. A soft pattering sound in the sand behind me. like small feet running. I spun around. The sand was shifting, like tiny footprints were forming right in front of me, racing toward the slide. But there was no child. No body. Just fresh footprints appearing in the cold sand, one after the other, leading away from the swings. My breath shook. Something was playing in this park. And it wasn't human. The tiny footprints moved fast, too fast for any real child. They stopped right in front of the slide, forming a cluster of small, deep impressions, as if someone was standing there, staring at me. The slide was pitch black inside. My flashlight beam hit the plastic, but the inside stayed dark like it absorbed the light instead of reflecting it. For a second, the air shifted, cold, sharp. The kind of cold that feels intentional. I slowly approached the slide. As I got closer, the metal ladder rungs began to vibrate, lightly at first, then with a steady shaking rhythm, like something was climbing down. But the ladder was empty. I took one more cautious step. That's when the entire slide let out a long, dragging scraping sound, like nails or fingers were being dragged along the inside walls. It went skuckeray up. I froze. The footprints in the sand suddenly deepened, as if invisible feet had jumped into them with force. Then the slide shook. A single, echoing thud hit the bottom of it. Like something heavy had just come down the slide even though nothing was there. My breath hitched. The sand in front of the slide shifted again, fresh footprints appearing, one by one, walking toward me. Slowly. Deliberately. Like whatever was making them was curious, or angry. I stepped back, but the footprints sped up, coming straight at me, until they stopped just a foot away from my boots. I didn't move. Couldn't. The cold air around my legs tightened, like small hands wrapping around my calves. Then, a childlike giggle whispered right beside my ear. I spun around instantly, flashlight shaking in my grip, but there was nothing behind me except empty playground and silent swings. But when I turned back, the footprints were gone. Completely wiped clean, like someone dragged a finger through the sand. Except one. One small footprint remained, pressed deeper than all the others. And it was pointing toward the forest trail, the darkest part of the entire park. As if inviting me. Or warning me. The single footprint pointed straight toward the forest trail. That part of the park always felt wrong at night. Tall pine trees packed tightly together, branches twisting overhead like dark claws. Even the wind didn't go through there, it just stopped, like the forest swallowed sound. But tonight, something was waiting inside it. My radio crackled lightly, not with a voice, just faint static. Almost like a whisper. I lifted my flashlight and stepped toward the tree line. Each step felt heavier than the last, like something didn't want me to go in, or desperately wanted me to. The moment I crossed under the first branch, the temperature dropped. Hard. My breath turned thick and white, floating unnaturally slow in front of me. Then I heard it. A soft voice. A child's whisper. Come play. I froze. The whisper didn't echo like normal sound. It came from every direction, left, right, behind me, above me, all at once. My heart slammed against my ribs. I raised the flashlight higher. The beam trembled as it cut through the trees. Something moved between them. Not a shape. Not a body. Just darkness shifting, like a shadow detaching itself from the trunk of a tree. I stepped back. The shadow stepped forward. My radio crackled again, this time with a soft tapping sound, like tiny fingers drumming on the speaker. Then the child's voice whispered again, clearer. You saw me on the swing. My throat tightened. The air around me felt thick, pressing inward, like the trees were leaning closer to listen. The shadow between the trees stretched, rising up the trunk like a long, thin silhouette. Then two small handprints appeared on the bark, pressed deep into the wood, as if invisible hands were gripping the tree. The whisper came again, right beside my ear, impossibly close. Let's play hide and seek. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping as I burst out of the tree line, breathing hard. The playground came back into view. But something was wrong. All 3 swings were now moving. Slowly. In perfect unison. And the slide. Something was standing at the top of it. A small silhouette. Still. Waiting. I stopped dead in my tracks. At the top of the slide, outlined against the faint glow of a distant street lamp, a small silhouette stood completely still. Not moving. Not breathing. Just watching me. It looked like the shape of a child. But wrong. Too still. Too dark. As if the darkness inside the slide had crawled out and formed itself into something child-sized. The swings behind me kept moving in perfect rhythm, chains squeaking slowly, almost like a countdown. My mouth went dry. I slowly raised my flashlight toward the slide. The beam reached halfway up the ladder. And then the silhouette leaned its head sideways, unnaturally far, as if trying to see me better. I froze. Humans can't tilt their heads like that. The silhouette didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Didn't hide. It wanted me to see it. As the light crept closer to the top, the shadow shrank suddenly. Like it dropped down the slide. But I didn't see it move. There was no sound. No shifting. Just suddenly gone. I kept the light on the slide opening. Nothing. Then something touched the back of my jacket. A small, cold tug. Like tiny fingers gripping the fabric. I whipped around. Flashlight swinging. Breath catching in my throat. No one there. But the sand behind me showed fresh footprints, small and deep. Circling me like something was walking around, fast and playful. My radio suddenly blared a high-pitched static burst, loud enough to make me flinch. Through the static, a voice slipped through. "Found you." The swing slammed to a stop all at once. The slide rattled violently. And the lights across the park flickered, once, twice. Then died. Darkness swallowed everything. The only sound left was breathing. Not mine. Someone else's. Right next to me. The park lights were dead. The swings were still. And the breathing beside me. Slow, soft, childlike. Didn't stop. I forced myself not to move. My flashlight flickered once. Then turned back on with a weak, shaking glow. The beam scanned the playground sand. Fresh footprints. Hundreds of them. Tiny, bare, scattered in circles and lines. As if children had been running around this place all night. But I was alone. I knew I was alone. A faint giggle echoed from the top of the slide again. I turned my flashlight upward. And this time, I saw it. Not a shadow. Not footprints. A child-sized figure, sitting at the top of the slide with its knees pulled to its chest. Its body was black, not like dark skin, but like an absence of shape. Like someone cut a child's silhouette out of reality. And its eyes. 2 white, glowing circles. No pupils. Just emptiness. It stared at me. My legs felt like they were sinking into the sand. The figure slowly curled itself and placed one tiny hand on the edge of the slide. The plastic warped under its touch, bending inward as if melting around invisible fingers. Then it spoke. Not with a mouth. But inside my ear. "You came to play." Its head twisted, far more than human, then it dropped down the slide. No sound. No body hitting the bottom. Nothing. Just silence. Then. Footsteps. Fast. Running behind me. I spun around, but the flashlight cut out again. And in the pitch-black darkness, something small and cold wrapped both arms around my leg. Like a child hugging me. But too strong. Too tight. I kicked backward instinctively, stumbling out of its grip. My boot hit nothing, but the sand exploded outward as if a small body had rolled away. I ran. I didn't think, just sprinted toward the security booth, lungs burning, radio screaming static in my ear. The moment I reached the booth and slammed the door shut, the lights flickered back on. Quiet. Still. Empty. The swings were motionless. The footprints were gone. Like nothing had ever been there. I quit that night. But sometimes, when I drive past Redwood Community Park on my way home, I still see one swing moving in the dark. Slow. Steady. As if waiting for me to come back and play again.